Hi, welcome to the Tips for MCs video for Pegasaurians. I'm here with Adrian Clark. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, Sam.
And we would like to share with you how we prepare for the role of MC because I know that a few people are perhaps a little reticent, a little, would we say scared, Adrian, do you think?
A little bit nervous,
A
maybe.
little bit nervous. Yeah, that's fair. And we just want to demystify it and share with other people how we prepare so that you can see it's not that difficult, not that stressful, and it can be enjoyable even. So the more you do it, the better it'll get. So let me ask Adrian first. When you were first asked to be MC, could you tell me how you felt?
I was a little bit nervous. I had actually done what I call non-specific preparation because throughout the, I think, 6 months before I was asked to do the MC role, I was observing the MC, attending meetings. Of course, you get to know how the meeting flows, the order of events, and see what the good MCs do. So, to a large extent, I was already mentally prepared. Then needed the fine tuning for that specific meeting.
Gotcha, gotcha. I certainly remember when I was asked to do it at Pegasus, despite being in Toastmasters for a while, there was that extra layer of anxiety because I didn't want to look like a complete wally. And I wanted to impress my new friends at Pegasus. Of course I did. It's like being in a contest, you want to do your best for everybody. So just because people have been doing it for a while doesn't mean they're not feeling wobbly too.
Yeah, no, that's very true. No matter what level you're at, there's always a little bit of anxiety. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's because you care. If you're
Yeah,
like, oh, I haven't got any fear at all, and everything's going to be cool and groovy because it always is, I think that can come over as cockiness. And I think
yeah,
that's a bit unattractive. So,
yeah.
but if humility is always a good thing,
I think it keeps you sharper as well.
for
Yeah, it's
sure.
it's it's your friend at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're just trying to do a good job for each other. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Okay, so what else am I going to ask you? I'm going to ask you. So let's start at the beginning. So say I was the VPE and I said, "Hey, Adrian, will you MC the next meeting for me in a week's time?" And you say yes, which is great. What's the first sort of things you start putting into place for that preparation?
The first thing I'd look at is think, okay, so I have a theme. What kind of theme is there? It might be that there's already a theme given. That's probably the first thing. And that could be an upcoming event, an anniversary, maybe, or just something maybe you think is of interest of yourself, that someone else and others in the club might be interested in, or the VPE themselves might have something in mind as well.
Brilliant. And I must admit, I'm straight onto Google as soon as I've got that theme, because I'm just now looking for direction. Where can I take this? Am I going to try and entertain and be funny, or am I just going to be Sam with the facts, or am I going to try and tell a story? I don't know about you, but my head explodes with ideas to begin with, and then I have to refine it. How is it for you?
I think it is like that because if you've got a week's notice to do the role, then you've got a bit of time to almost put your feet up. Just don't be too decisive about what you want. Just explore ideas. Go, like as you say, go on the internet. Look at. I mean, I tend to go on an internet looking at historical dates. What happened today in history, or what happened very recently in history. Is it a special day? For example, sometimes you have the Day of the Dog or Cat's Day, or for example, things like International Women's Day as an example. We have all sorts of different things, and again, it's a case of looking and finding something, or maybe there's something that's happened recently or coming up. Maybe it's a sporting event, for example. A brilliant week, for example, would have been when the Lionesses won the Football World Cup. Wouldn't that have been a great meeting to MC?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I remember I seized the moment of Star Wars Day in May, being a sci-fi fan. And I know not everybody is, but hopefully there are enough common references that most people would still enjoy it. And I
Yeah.
think I put in a lot of sci-fi facts. It wasn't exclusively about Star Wars, so that it was very inclusive. So, how do you decide what to choose? What things you'll use?
It goes back to that incubation period we talked about, where you're just putting your feet up and looking at it, and you look at all the different ideas of what you could do, because you've looked at historical events, you've looked at whether there's any special days or anything else, and it's about really looking at it, thinking, okay, so it's a combination of factors really, and you just think around it. It's things like what interests me that I could talk about, I think would interest a number of Toastmasters, Pegasaurians, and you look at things like that. But also look about, is there a lot of facts that you could come up with on that? And sometimes you might look at a topic and think that looks really good, but you can't really come up with many facts that you think would really interest others or even yourself.
Absolutely. And I think perhaps it's a case of buddying up with someone and having a chat. You don't, no one is an island. They don't have to work exclusively alone
Yeah,
to achieve this goal. There's enough of us in Pegasus that you can say, can I just bend your ear for a minute? Or even do it on WhatsApp. I've got these ideas. What do you think? I think it's tempting to try and do it on your own because you think that's what I should do, but you don't have to.
and that's very true, because often I don't specifically do that, but it's something I may do going forward. But I have had occasions when I've tried out in terms of ideas, and then, for example, the VPE might announce the theme, and then next thing I know, wow, I've got some material for that, or at least I know where I can get. I know the sort of material I'm looking for. I'll find it on the internet.
Absolutely. The internet is our friend.
Yeah,
And because the internet can be a fickle thing, I must admit that I will harvest the data that I want, the sentences, the facts, whatever it is, and put it onto either a Word document or a note or something like that, just so that if for any reason I was struggling with connectivity on my laptop, for example, I could still use my phone data to get on. My phone, I have to hold it in front of me, my phone data to get on and still use my notes function. So I don't feel like, oh no, that web page that I was using isn't available. What am I going to do?
I always on the internet, but I'll always copy and paste notes onto A4, and as I go through the facts I've covered, I'll pick them off as well, and I'll make a few asterisks next to the ones I think are, the ones I definitely want to cover.
Yes, me too. Quite often, I think when we look at the agenda, we'll see some what feel like natural points in the
Yeah,
agenda to say something extra, rather than all the way through, which could be quite tiring for everybody and make the meeting very long.
yeah,
And I think there's something about you'll get a vibe for the meeting. This is the kind of abstract thing, it's hard to teach, but you get a feeling in the meeting of how it's going. And then if you've got like 10 facts and 6 opportunities, you can then choose what you think will fit.
exactly. This is where role becomes easier. A, the more you do it, and B, the more time you spend thinking about the role in advance, observing the MCs, learn the flow of the meetings, and maybe look at a few agendas so you can just work them through in your head. So this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And then when you're in the middle of the meeting and need to be looking at the agenda, thinking, where am I now? Can I fit these facts in? It makes that process so much easier.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And if you don't have access to the detailed agenda, it's not difficult to speak to somebody on the committee because all the committee members
Yeah,
have access to that detailed button on Easy Speak, and
yeah,
they can easily reveal that to themselves. Go to File, Print, and then you print to PDF, which saves it as a PDF document, which you can then send on
right.
WhatsApp or email or whatever. So if people aren't familiar on how to create that PDF from a web page, that's how you would do that.
Yeah,
Really
definitely.
easy.
Yeah,
And then obviously you can
definitely.
print it off and write all over it.
Yeah, make your own little notes. Yeah,
absolutely. And if you can't print, you should be able to edit in some way, by drawing on it in some way, so that
Yeah,
you can keep track of where you are, because obviously that's important as the MC.
exactly. Yeah, looking at the time on the agenda against the time on your clock. How are we doing? Have we got time? For this little snippet, or have we gone a bit behind, and therefore I need to just hand over to the next role?
Absolutely. And speaking of roles, I think it always looks better to the audience, I think, if you have managed to collaborate with the topics master so that the theme is joined up. It's not the end of the world if it's not, but I just think it looks slicker and it's smoother, more professional, all of those things. So it's definitely worth at least talking to the table topics master and saying, hey, what are your plans? Did you know the theme was this? This is
Yeah,
the sort of thing I'm going to be doing, so that you don't end up stepping on each other's toes. Because you could end up giving a load of facts, which is what they looked
yeah,
up.
it's very true. Yeah,
Ruins
and
all the
oddly
topics.
enough, that's something I don't do. So lesson for there for me myself there.
Well, I've had an occasion where I was topic master and someone like blew all of my topics virtually, and I was like,
Yeah,
right, thinking cap on, Google. Let's do something slightly different. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So what else can I think of? So I think particularly for Pegasus, it's an opportunity to have fun, because it's like every other Toastmasters meeting. It's where we practice in a safe place. And I think people worry about getting things wrong, tripping over themselves, missing something out, but you're still allowed to be human.
exactly. I think that's one of the things that even when you've done MC a couple of times, you still slip up now and again. I think the last time I MC'd, I struggled to pronounce a word. I can't remember what the word was. Um, Something when I stumbled over it a few times and finally managed to come out with a word. I think that just makes you more human.
For sure. And I can't remember how many times I have forgotten that we do evaluations straight after the speeches. So my brain's going, and here's the next speech. And someone goes, can we have the evaluation, please?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, we can. And you
yeah,
just got to style it out instead of getting flustered and go, oh God, I'm so sorry, I forgot that. It's okay. It's not the end of
yeah,
the world. Just go with it.
exactly. And there's always experienced Toastmasters that you've said, "Well, hang on a minute, we could have the evaluation first."
Yeah. And
Or you could, yeah,
they're not trying to make you feel bad or make you look bad. They're just trying to help.
yeah. And it's good. It's a team effort at the end of the day, and
Yes.
everybody's got your back. That's what you have to remember. If you do forget the timing, somebody will point it out at some point. It will
Absolutely.
happen.
Absolutely. So I think for people who struggle with having notes next to them and things like that, one of the things that I'll share is that I do have that notes or the words section where I've written down the facts I want to use, and
Yeah,
I'll have them like I'm doing right now, like directly under the camera. So if I read to you, don't just read out the agenda. You're not a newsreader. It looks quite natural because it's just right there below the camera. It doesn't look like I'm reading notes to you, hopefully.
yeah,
And you can use that tool too. I mean, you could even use a teleprompter if you really wanted to. There are some free ones out there. Uh, but keep it as simple or as technical as you like. It's your kit and equipment. But I think it's a great idea to have the Zoom window, your notes, the agenda, and the chat box all open at the same time. Even on a laptop, which is what I'm working on, there should be enough
yeah,
space to have those four things on your screen and be able to just move between them as you need to.
yeah. And that's again something else, another lesson for me. I love paper, bits of paper with things on. So that's something else I'll have to look at. Yeah.
I have no room for paper.
Yeah.
I'm in a different location at the moment, but usually it's just the laptop on the desk and there's no other room. So I
Yeah.
have to work with the screen only. And it does keep it nice and tidy, I'll give you that. And
Keeps you honest.
yeah, it does keep you honest for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And I think Not reading out too many facts is a good one to know as well. So, we mentioned there might be perhaps six opportunities to
Yeah,
share your knowledge and wisdom and your interesting facts, but don't be tempted to do 20.
no. And I must admit, even sometimes you won't get to as many as six. I think the last time I emceed, we covered
Yeah,
three or four, and sometimes you just got to go with the time. I mean, the key thing is to respect everyone's time.
absolutely. And as the MC, it's your job to keep your eye on that agenda time so that you can flex either by
Yeah,
filling in or reducing so that you can try and pull us back onto time. That's
exactly.
absolutely true.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to what we reiterated before, that if you get familiar with the flow of the agenda by observing it at various meetings that you attend, observing what the MC does, you'll already have a head start in that you won't need to do the MC so many times to get proficient at it because you've already done a lot of it mentally.
Yeah, yeah. And whilst what we're explaining is a lot of stuff, we
Yeah,
appreciate if you can be present in the moment because you've done all of that prep. You
yeah,
don't have to kind of be in a panic because you've done all the good stuff in the background. That allows you to perform it, if you like. So sound interested in your own
yeah.
facts. Don't be a
Makes
boring old newsreader.
Yeah, exactly. Because once you've got the flow of the agenda, and everything else is putting your personality on top of it, and also improvising in terms of the time, whether you need to move on quickly or whether you've got time to add a few snippets of information.
Yeah, absolutely. And that preparation will hopefully remove your fear of failure because it's
Yeah,
right there in front of you. A lot of the fears we mentioned at the beginning, where people are worried about, I'll forget it, I'll go blank, I won't be interesting, I'm not sure I can multitask. Well, if you've got it all on your screen right there, you don't need to multitask, it's just right there. Uh, it's more challenging, obviously, in person where you might not want to be the center of attention, but there might be times in life where you have to lead a meeting at work or something like that. So you're going to be the center of attention, and this is the practice for that.
exactly. Yeah, it gives you a lot of opportunities to develop a whole range of skills, as you mentioned, running a meeting, time management.
Oh, totally. I'm
And
a control freak, so I wanted to chair every meeting when I was in corporate because I was sick of really poor meetings. And I'd be chomping at the bit, because we'd never get
yeah.
through an agenda, and I'd be like, "Arr, give it to me."
That's the key thing, isn't it? It's about having a clear agenda and a clear idea of how you want the meeting to flow in terms of timings, and you get that automatically with Toastmasters. You don't have to think about that because obviously the committee working hard and the VPEs will pull all that together. That makes an MC job a lot easier. And in fact, always as an MC, you're always conscious that even though you're the person presenting everything and moving the meeting on, there's a whole host of team working behind you, both for the meeting, during the meeting, and everything else, and making it flow. And before, it is a team effort.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think the overriding message is feel the fear and do it anyway. This is the safe place to do it. Don't put
Yeah.
more pressure on yourself than there is really there. Don't imagine there's more pressure than there is.
The key takeaway, as I said before, is familiarisation with the flow of the meeting. It will help when if things need to be moved quickly or things go off track. It's so much easier to deal with those if you're already familiar with the flow of the meeting. You don't have to MC to get there. You can look at a few agendas online, agenda from the last meeting, get the idea of the flow of the meeting. And obviously, when you're in a role where you can do it and you're in a meeting, observe what the MC does and the handoff points.
Absolutely, and the segues and the handing off to the different roles. Yeah, how did they do that? Because some people they struggle. Well, how do you hand over? Well,
Yeah,
say you were going to be doing language master for me, so I'm introducing you. So I might talk about a fact that has something to do with a funky word or whatever, and I might go, and speaking of funky words, we have our language master coming up
yeah,
to tell us about his role. So that's an example of using your fact to segue beautifully to the next part of agenda that you need to do. You don't have to do that for every single one, but it's an example of how you could use it to make it
It
sound really slick.
is, and you focus on the basics first, which is thank you very much for that wonderful speech. I'd now
Yeah,
like to pass you over to our evaluator, who knows going to do an excellent job. Over to you. You focus on that, the basics, and then when you've got those nailed down, you then find that naturally you'll get the ideas to, as you mentioned, segue.
definitely. And as a member, when you're not the MC, it's really important to hand back to the MC. So when you've finished your report, you can wrap it up and then go back to you, MC Adrian. And it's
Yeah.
really, really clear that that handover has taken place because, particularly
Yes.
online, it's not always clear. There's
No.
just sort of a finish, and everyone's going, are they done?
Yeah.
And the MC's going, oh, I've got to unmute myself, and it's all getting a bit panicky. So yes, and that's the other thing about being the MC. I think anticipating that once someone has started doing their role or their speech, how long are they due to speak? Speak for. Let's look at the agenda. Is it 7 minutes? Is it 3 minutes? What is it? So by around about that sort of 2 to 3 minute mark, perhaps on an evaluation, I'm going to get ready to
Yeah.
unmute myself to thank them for doing that. I
Yeah.
can't be off doing emails and doing something else. That's the thing with the MC role. You have to be 100% present. And I would
Absolutely.
recommend that you don't do any other roles at the same time.
No, for definite. Yeah, it doesn't fit really well. You're almost the overseer. You're the one that's got the eagle eye view of the meeting.
Yeah. I mean, if you've done it 27 times, then maybe yeah, you can do
Yeah.
a role at the same time because you've got it just down. But certainly if you're watching this video and looking at our tip sheet, you'll probably want to just concentrate on nailing the MC role
Yeah,
first.
definitely. Yeah.
So if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And that role, the MC role, is the most evident of that, without a doubt.
Exactly, yeah, and it is a straightforward role. As you mentioned, you just hand off from one person to the next. In principle, it's just familiarisation with the agenda, observing enough meetings to get the general idea of the flow.
Hmm.
And then naturally, before you do a specific meeting, you look at the agenda again because you might have 3 speeches rather than 4, 2 speeches rather than 4.
Absolutely. And when there's changes, be swan like. Don't get flapped and kind of go, oh, there's a change. Oh, I'm not really sure what we're doing next.
Yeah,
There's a change. Do you know what? There's an opportunity for a member to step in and cover this role. Do I have a volunteer from the audience?
yeah,
Instead of your brain going, ah, we haven't got an
yeah,
evaluator or whatever. And that keeping that chat box open that I mentioned before as one of the 4
yeah,
items is when you're MC, you're probably communicating with the VP and the Zoom master privately because people aren't turning
yeah,
up, still trying to find someone to cover. And you can just seamlessly say, and there's a change to our program this evening because Carla is now covering Language
yeah,
Master. And it just looks so professional. You feel good about it because you're in control. Yeah, that's yeah, and a lot of it will come with time, with practice. Of course, it will. I can stand here and go, oh, it's easy. You just do this and you just do that because I've done it a lot. But it will get easier the more
yeah,
you do it.
definitely. Yeah, for definite.
Cool. Right. So everyone who's watched this, I want you to contact your VPE. If you're in Pegasus, it's Simon Ashby at the moment, and that's the year 2022 to 23. Just in case this video lasts a lot longer, and get yourself plumbed in because wouldn't it be great if we got those MCs planned in for the rest of this year, and people could have plenty of time to prepare and rehearse. And I know that I'm certainly happy to work with anybody who wants to do a bit of prep on the side in private so that they feel really confident to do the role.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, likewise.
There you go. We're your go-to MC gurus. And on that note, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for doing this with me, Adrian.
No, thank you
Lovely to get
for the
two different
opportunity.
perspectives. Brilliant.